The clatter of swords, the screams of the fallen. History echoes with the deafening clamor of war. From the Crusades to the 30 Years' War, faith has often been the battle cry, the driving force behind unimaginable violence. Yet within the sacred texts of these warring factions lie verses of peace, compassion and love. How can this be? How can faith, the supposed bedrock of morality, be used to both justify bloodshed and inspire peace? This is the unsettling paradox we must confront. The relationship between faith and violence is complex. It is a tapestry woven from threads of scripture, history, and human interpretation. In this exploration, we delve into the heart of two world religions, Christianity and Islam. We examine how they approach the thorny issue of war. We uncover the historical context that shaped their doctrines, and we confront the uncomfortable reality: the same faith that promises salvation can be used to justify destruction. Christianity, a religion founded on the teachings of peace and love embodied in Jesus Christ, presents a particularly jarring paradox. The Old Testament, shared with Judaism, narrates a history marked by divine command and conquest. The Israelites, chosen by God, are often instructed to wage war against their enemies. Stories of divinely sanctioned battles like the fall of Jericho raise challenging questions about God's role in human conflict. In stark contrast, the New Testament introduces Jesus, who preaches forgiveness, compassion, and turning the other cheek. Love your enemies, he urges, and pray for those who persecute you. This radical departure from the Old Testament's martial pronouncements has led to centuries of debate within Christian circles. How can these seemingly contradictory messages be reconciled? Is violence ever justified in the eyes of God? Early Christians grappled with the implications of Jesus' teachings in a world where violence was commonplace. Some, like the pacifist Anabaptists, embraced nonviolence as the only true Christian response to conflict. Others, however, sought to reconcile their faith with the realities of earthly governance. Augustine of Hippo, a prominent 4th-century theologian, formulated the influential doctrine of just war theory. Augustine argued that while war is inherently evil, it can be justified under specific circumstances, such as self-defense or the protection of innocence. This theory, with its emphasis on right intention, proportionality, and last resort, has shaped Christian thought on war for centuries. Islam, like Christianity, has been painted with the brush of violence and aggression. The term jihad, often misinterpreted as holy war, has become synonymous with terrorism and fanaticism in the post-9/11 world. However, this narrow definition obscures the broader meaning of jihad within Islamic tradition. Jihad in its truest sense is a struggle for righteousness, a striving to live a life pleasing to God. This struggle can take many forms, from internal battles against temptation to collective efforts to fight injustice and oppression. While armed struggle is one form of jihad, it is by no means the only or even the most important form. The life of Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam, offers a nuanced understanding of the faith's approach to war. In the early years of his ministry, facing persecution and violence, the Prophet and his followers were forbidden from engaging in armed resistance. Only when their very existence was threatened were they permitted to fight back. Even then, the Prophet established strict rules of engagement. He forbade the killing of non-combatants, the destruction of crops and property, and the mutilation of the dead. His teachings emphasized compassion, even in the heat of battle. These principles, enshrined in Islamic law, challenge the simplistic notion of Islam as a religion of violence. Section 6. Distorting the narrative, from conquest to terrorism. The history of both Christianity and Islam is intertwined with warfare. The early spread of Islam, for example, was marked by military conquests. However, attributing these conquests solely to religious zeal is a gross oversimplification. Political and economic factors played a significant role in shaping these historical events. In the modern era, extremist groups like ISIS have exploited religious rhetoric to justify their acts of barbarity. Their twisted interpretations of scripture, however, are a far cry from the teachings of peace and compassion found in the Quran and the example of the Prophet Muhammad. To equate these groups with true Islam is to misunderstand the faith and its history. Section 7. Two faiths, one dilemma, converging paths, divergent views. Both Christianity and Islam, despite their vastly different origins and historical trajectories, grapple with the same fundamental questions about faith, violence, and the human condition. Both religions acknowledge the inherent evil of war, yet both also recognize that there are times when force may be necessary. Both faiths emphasize the importance of justice, compassion, and the sanctity of life, even in the midst of conflict. Their approaches, however, are not without their differences. The Christian doctrine of just war, with its emphasis on right intention and proportionality, stands in contrast to the Islamic concept of jihad, which encompasses a broader spectrum of struggle, both internal and external. These differences highlight the complexities of navigating faith in a world where violence remains a persistent threat. Section 8. Seeds of Peace, Shared Values in a Fractured World. Despite the divergent paths they may take, Christianity and Islam ultimately converge on a shared desire for peace. Both faiths recognize the inherent dignity of every human being, regardless of their beliefs. Both traditions emphasize the importance of forgiveness, reconciliation, and breaking the cycle of violence. In a world increasingly fractured by conflict and division, these shared values offer a glimmer of hope. The path to peace lies in recognizing our common humanity, in building bridges of understanding, and in rejecting the voices of hatred and division. Section 9. A Call to Action, Choosing Faith Over Fury. The question is not whether faith can justify war, but whether we, as people of faith, allow it to. The scriptures of both Christianity and Islam offer a path to peace, but it is up to us to choose that path. We must resist the temptation to exploit religious teachings for our own ends. We must challenge those who twist scripture to justify violence and oppression. Let us choose faith over fury. Let us choose compassion over conflict. Let us build a world where the echoes of war are replaced by the whispers of peace.